From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
So much for hopes that Congress might settle down to get things done in the new year. In the Senate, a bipartisan bill to tighten border security while aiding Ukraine and Israel imploded. And in the House, GOP leaders suffered an embarrassing defeat when they tried to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security. All this against the backdrop of a likely rematch in the race for president. Will this be another lost year on Capitol Hill? Our guest this week on Newsmakers, Massachusetts Congressman Jake Auchincloss. Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White alongside 12 News Politics editor Ted Nesi. Congressman Jake Auchincloss, welcome to the program. It's good to have you back.
Ted, Tim, thanks for having me on again.
I want to start with the big news that happened last night. We're taping this on a Friday morning, and that is President Biden's response to a special counsel report deciding not to charge him in the classified documents case against him. He called a news conference last night. The president lashed out at some of the elements of that report, particularly sections that said he had memory problems, but in defending himself, he did make a gaffe, mixing up the presidents of Egypt and Mexico. I'm curious if you have concerns about the president's mental fitness.
I don't. I've spent time with the president and his senior staff. He's lucid, and we've worked together to accomplish some big things in the 117th Congress: infrastructure, gun safety, lowering health care costs. Voters are going to take into account the president's age, but I would encourage them to take into account his full profile and record as well. His 50 years of foreign policy experience at a time when the world is more dangerous than ever. The fact that he was able to work with Democrats and Republicans to make seismic investments in manufacturing and infrastructure and healthcare affordability. And the fact that after 4 years of chaos under Donald Trump, he has offered healing and stability for our democracy. Voters are going to take into account his profile, his record, and the choice in front of them in 2024, which is between Joe Biden and a man who's promising to be a dictator on day one.
You've been an outspoken person about how bad you thought January 6th was, not just for what it was, but in terms of foreign policy and the impression it gave to the world. Polls are now pretty consistently showing the president down against Donald Trump. I mean, how concerned are you that the voters' concerns about the president mean that Donald Trump could be reelected?
Well, we should all be very concerned that Donald Trump could be reelected. This election is going to be a near-run thing. It's going to come down to tens or hundreds of thousands of votes in places like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Georgia. And so all Democrats up and down the ballot need to be making the case to voters, not just what we accomplished in the last 4 years, but also the choice in front of us for the next 4 years, because the choice is nothing less than the health and survival of our democracy. We cannot be defending democracy in Ukraine and Taiwan and Israel if we do not protect and sustain it here at home.
I mean, just from the political perspective, though, when watching it last night or whenever you watched it, did you wince when he mixed up the two presidents of the countries there, knowing, oh man, that is only reinforcing his enemy's narrative?
Yeah, Republicans and others are always going to jump on misspeaking from the president. And as I said, voters are going to take into account his age, but they also need to take into account his actual track record, which is that he came in at a moment when this country was facing the worst crisis in our democracy since the Civil War, the worst public health crisis since World War I, the most challenging economic situation since World War II. I mean, it's been 3 years now, so voters have put that in the rearview mirror, but let's remember what it was like in January 2021. This country was in a very hard spot, and under his leadership, we've come a huge way. This economy is booming right now. Inflation is going down, job openings are going up. The United States is leading yet again for democracy overseas in Europe and in the Indo-Pacific. And so I just want voters to take into account the full record of Joe Biden and the choice that they have.
I want to get your reaction to something else he said last night, and it dovetails with a vote that you took recently. Yeah, he said last night that the upshot was the attacks in Gaza have gotten out of control, basically. Is he right?
I think that we need to support Israel as it defends itself and as it looks to demilitarize Gaza and eradicate Hamas, because Hamas is a terrorist organization that can have no place in post-war governance in Gaza. I also think that Benjamin Netanyahu has been overly calibrated to his cabinet and not to being a statesman that meets the moment. The Israeli people have responded to October 7th with courage and conviction. Benjamin Netanyahu needs to meet the moment as well.
Ceasefire?
I think that not a unilateral ceasefire, no. There is a deal that the United States and Qatar and Egypt are looking to negotiate for a 2-month ceasefire in exchange for the hostages returned. I think that is the principles behind a good deal, because it's more likely that the hostages come home, which is our first priority, through diplomacy than through violence.
You are the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in Massachusetts. I would say you're one of Israel's staunchest defenders in the regional congressional delegation. But the other night, you were also isolated because the Republican leadership, I want to explain this right, it's a little parliamentary stuff to it, but the Republican leadership in the House put on the floor a clean Israel-only aid bill, which the White House was making calls, it's been reported, and whipped against. You voted for it. All the other Democrats who represent this region in Congress voted no. Why did you break with the White House in that bill when you knew it wasn't going to pass?
I stand with Israel and its right to self-defense, and I'm not going to allow Israel to be subject to the Speaker's craven political maneuvering. We need to support all our allies, though, Ukraine, Taiwan, Israel. The Senate is soon to pass a bill to do just that, and Speaker Johnson is going to have to bring it onto the floor if he wants to be able to face himself and face history in the years to come.
Did you get a call from the White House? Did they try to convince you to vote the other way?
I spoke with Democratic House leadership, and they understood where I'm at. They know I'm a huge supporter of Ukraine. They know I'm a huge supporter of Israel. And they also know that I'm a huge supporter of the border security package that, unfortunately, the Senate GOP and the House GOP worked together to torpedo. And it's another example of the fact that Democrats don't really have good faith negotiating partners right now in Congress.
Before we get to border security, I do want to just wrap up a question on the situation in Gaza. Look, there are protests on college campuses. And they've raised new concerns about anti-Semitism at colleges and universities, which are supposed to be, the zenith of the marketplace of ideas and free speech. But you're concerned, and you've criticized your alma mater about this, right? How worried are you about a rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses?
I'm deeply concerned. We have an anti-Semitism problem on college campuses, and I fully support the efforts of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Education to investigate those universities, including Harvard, that have not done enough to make sure—
Your alma mater, I should point out.
My alma mater, to make sure that their Jewish students and their Israeli students have a learning environment free from harassment. These institutions are meant to be places where people can vigorously debate ideas, yes, unpopular ideas, even ideas that are totally out of line of the mainstream thought. That is the purpose of a university. But they also have to make sure that people do not feel persistently harassed or persecuted when they're on campus.
Just briefly to that, to Tim's question, you haven't been out of Harvard that long. I think you just turned 36. Do you think it's fundamentally different from when you were at Harvard 15-ish years ago? I
do. It's gotten significantly worse in the last 5 to 10 years.
You do? You think the culture's changed, even though, because it's not like Harvard was known as a Republican place in the 2000s.
No, it's always had a liberal bent, the faculty, the student body as well. I think what has changed in the last 5 to 10 years, though, is that it has become increasingly doctrinaire and increasingly illiberal, hostile to really the long classical tradition of being a viewpoint neutral forum for people to debate in good faith.
All right, let's turn, as Tim said, to the border bill, because you mentioned, and it's true, that Republicans were the driving force behind killing that. But your 2 U.S. senators in Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey, voted against the bill too. Ed Markey claimed it had Trump policies. He said, I don't support Donald Trump and I don't support Trump policies, even though Governor Maura Healey's been pleading with Congress to act on this and supported the bill. Were you surprised the 2 senators voted that way?
I wasn't surprised necessarily. I agree with the governor. I have visited the migrants in my district in Swansea and elsewhere. I've seen the conditions that they're in. This border crisis is not fair to the migrants. It's also not fair to Massachusetts taxpayers who are shouldering tremendous financial burdens to provide shelter and services. The genesis of this border crisis comes from the fact that the United States economy is incredibly strong. It's got a huge number of job openings, and there are 60 million people living south of the border earning $1 a day or less. And so they are surging across the border seeking economic opportunity, and I don't blame any single one of them. I would do the same thing with my 3 kids in similar circumstances. But the American people do deserve a secure border. They deserve rule of law at the border, and they also deserve policies that prevent fentanyl from surging across, which is killing 100,000 Americans every year. This border deal was a big part of getting that job done, and it is shameful that Republicans torpedoed it out of subservience to Donald Trump.
But they did. And now Governor Hill, I read yesterday that I think the cost of the shelter program in Massachusetts has gone from $200 or $300 million to like $900 million because of all the migrants there. Governor Healy said over and over, we need a Washington solution. This is a Congress problem. We just saw what Congress is going to do. What is your advice at this point to the Healy administration if Congress isn't going to act?
She's right. This is a Congress problem. We haven't legislated on this issue in Congress since I've been alive. We had our best opportunity, and senators and House members on the Republican Party decided they would rather campaign on it than govern on it. And I would just say to them, be careful what you wish for, because now we are going to campaign on this, and we're going to remind the American voters that given a chance to solve the border crisis, Republicans walked away from the table out of subservience to Donald Trump. In terms of what we can do in the short term, for Massachusetts, the Medicaid waiver to provide Medicaid funding for shelter and services is the best avenue for federal funding, but it's not comprehensive. We needed this bill, and I'm going to keep fighting for this bill.
Real quick before we go to break, as we said at the top of the program, the Republican effort to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary failed. They may try again. But look, putting aside the argument, which obviously you disagree with, that he committed high crimes and misdemeanors, illegal border crossings hit an all-time high in December. Do you think the Biden administration could be doing more? We talked about the bill that failed, but could the Biden administration be doing more right now to control things at the border?
The Biden administration to date has done its utmost under the bounds of the law and of humanity to try to prevent the surge in border crossings. But the truth of the matter is he needs new laws. Unlike Donald Trump, this president cares about following the law. And he needed more authorities, which this bill would have given him, to help prevent border crossings. Now, more funding without policy changes would also help, and that would help provide the Border Patrol agents and the immigration judges necessary to provide both better due process and stricter security. But ultimately, back to what Governor Healy said, the genesis of the problem is in Congress, and the solution is in Congress.
All right. Do we have the picture from Congressman Magaziner that we could bring up? There was a selfie, I believe, that was on your birthday, right?
That's on my birthday.
That's Congressman Seth Magaziner on the left and Congressman Gabe Amo on the right to celebrate your birthday. Ted pointed this out to me before the program that despite you being so young, I think Ted said you're 36 years old. You're among the three of them. You're the senior congressman. Did you have advice for them when they came to the floor?
They don't need my advice. They're two highly capable lawmakers, and I want to especially give Gabe Amo a shout out here because he came relatively recently into this office and has absolutely hit the ground running on the bridge closure. Previously to being a member of Congress, he was intergovernmental relations for the White House, which is exactly the portfolio that is relevant to this problem, and he has been really at the nexus of state and federal negotiations on this and has been hugely impactful.
All right, Congressman Magaziner, I know you're watching. You have to up your selfie game. That thing was blurry, and you need to update your iPhone. All right, our conversation with Congressman Jake Auchincloss will continue. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White, alongside 12 News Politics editor Ted Nesi. Our guest this week, Congressman Jake Auchincloss from Massachusetts. Congressman, I want to go over the border. Rhode Island, biggest story right now, the Washington Bridge that carries I-195 into and out of Providence. You pressed the head of the Federal Highway Administration on what they're doing very early on in this entire crisis. But your constituents are impacted going into, maybe commuting into Providence. We hear it all the time, in the newsroom. Our phones, nonstop emails, social media. Are you hearing from your constituents about this problem?
Yes. And it's not just the commute, which has become longer and maybe even worse, unpredictable, which is really hard for folks.
Yes.
Childcare, job, et cetera. It's also the constituents of mine who are small business owners in the greater Providence area, because the small businesses surrounding this bridge have taken a real hit. They do have access to
I just want to remind people, because they might not know the maps. You've got like Attleboro, you've got Seekonk, you've got out to Fall River, so it's all kind of around the bridge area. You are your constituents.
The part of Massachusetts outside of 495, a lot of times those folks are commuting towards Providence. And the small business owners, as I was saying, are taking a hit in their revenues, and there are some low-cost loans available through the federal government to help mitigate that, but it's not sufficient. They need that bridge open. As you said, I've been pressing the Federal Highway Administration on this, and just yesterday spoke to Secretary Buttigieg again on the matter.
What did he say?
DOT is surging technical support for the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, and when this report comes out, February, March, about whether this bridge needs to be replaced or needs to be fixed. I think that's going to make more clear next steps. I'll obviously be looking towards the Rhode Island delegation and the Rhode Island governor on how they want to approach the federal government. But it may be that similar to the Minnesota Bridge Challenge in 2007, where an act of Congress allowed for federal funding to be unlocked for a non-natural disaster situation, that might be the appropriate step. But
that's actually the first I've heard about that. I could have missed it being talked about by local delegates. Can you just expand a little bit? Because I know we have a lot of interest in this topic, what that would mean.
Yeah, so at the highest level, basically, the emergency declaration really under the Stafford Act is not applicable to this situation because it was not a natural disaster. It was
Which
not
Governor McKee's been saying, it's not
an act of God sort of thing. What happened with the Minnesota Bridge in 2007 was that by an act of Congress, basically, Congress said, well, we're deciding that we're going to surge federal funding for this situation because it's so grievous. And
that bridge collapsed. We should remind people it was a
yes.
structural deficiency and just went to the ground.
Exactly. Even a worse situation than what happened
yes,
here.
For sure. Yes.
And once this report is out, that may be something to consider. Again, I'm going to want to look to the Rhode Island delegation and the Rhode Island governor about how they want to approach it. But it would take an act of Congress probably to unlock the full federal funding for an emergency umbrella funding.
But there are basically unusual options that could be on the table, at least for discussion, depending on what comes out with this report.
And I don't have to tell you two that passing a bill in Congress right now is probably not.
Well, to be honest, that was my next question. I mean, especially in the House, you're all in the minority.
Yes.
You know, Massachusetts historically not a big Republican state in recent decades. Rhode Island not much either. So, do you think there'd be any path to convince Republican leadership to put a bill like that on the floor?
I think that's something that we'd have to look at. We'd have to look at the chessboard.
One story. Look, we don't at Channel 12. We don't cover a lot of stories out of Newton, but the teacher strike in Newton is something that made headlines down here as well. You know, my reading of your comments on that, you declined to take sides in the teacher strike. You urged both sides to, get back to the table so kids could get back to school. Everybody wanted that, of course. In contrast, your colleague, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, was firmly on the side of the union, urging pay increases, all that. Look, I'm sure it's an uncomfortable situation for you, but do you think you risked angering everyone by trying to straddle the fence on this issue?
No, and I don't think I tried to straddle the fence. I tried to center the students in this. The students are the ones whose lives were disrupted, and I thought the situation was deeply unfair to them and to their families. They belong in school, and particularly on the heels of the COVID closures, when we know we're grappling with learning loss for literacy and for math and for socio-emotional development, these students need the consistency of school. 1 out of every 5 students in Newton Public Schools are special needs students, and they especially need that predictability and the teacher support that they get. I wanted those kids in school. I also want the teachers, and I was a K-12 public schools graduate from Newton Schools, and the Newton Public Schools teachers are the best teachers I've ever had in my life. I want them to be paid well and to feel valued by a city that prides itself on its schools. What was not acceptable was a situation where for 11 days kids were not in the classroom, and that needed to end.
I want to ask you about an interesting exchange you had you're on the China Select Committee. This is created specifically by the House leadership to look at America's competition with China. You had former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in there recently, and it seemed like he was expecting kind of a polite discussion society, and you kind of went after him on his position on the January 6th riots, as well as whether he's truly saying affirmatively that Donald Trump lost that election and Joe Biden won. His pushback to you was, well, this was supposed to be bipartisan, and you ruined it, Congressman, by bringing all that up. I mean, is there a risk there? Are you supposed to be doing the foreign policy ends at the water's edge thing when you're in that kind of discussion?
It should be bipartisan that 2020 was a free and fair election. The fact that it's not is no reflection on my questioning. It's a reflection on where the Republican Party has headed in the last 4 years. The fact that the China Select Committee invited a notorious election denier to come lecture that committee on the imperative to protect democracy was shameful. And you're right, Ted, I on that committee have been very bipartisan and focused on solutions. But on behalf of my constituents, I am not going to sit there and let Mike Pompeo get a podium to tell America what we should be doing on behalf of democracy worldwide when that man can't even under oath say that 2020 was free and fair. Shame on him.
Do you find your Republican colleagues, you'll read when you read the Beltway press, that a lot of Republicans privately will, it sounds like, kind of groan to their colleagues, like, Trump, he makes our life so difficult politically. We know January 6th wasn't good, but we can't say that anymore. Do you hear those kind of things? You do?
Yes.
I don't know. What do you make of that, I guess? Because it's not how most of them talk publicly.
Agreed. I would say round numbers here, 2/3 of Republican members of Congress, House and Senate, privately despise Donald Trump and recognize what an embarrassment he is to our republic. They're afraid of a primary, just be flat out. They're afraid of a MAGA challenger. And very few of them, unfortunately, have demonstrated the political courage to stand up for the basic tenets of our democracy. I'm not talking about agreeing with Democrats and everything. That's not what I'm saying. They are well within their mandate to contest on policy. I'm talking about supporting free and fair elections, which is the bedrock of our constitutional republic. And unfortunately, too many of them have flinched from that responsibility.
We have about a minute left, maybe a little over. I want to ask you this, kind of wonky, but on the flip side of the whole immigration debate, you want to encourage more immigration in one area by adjusting the Labor Department Schedule A Group 1 occupations list for expedited visas. Sounds technical? Explain it in a minute.
As we saw with the border security crisis, Congress does not look able to legislate on immigration, and yet New England benefits from high-skilled immigration. And this is a program that allows the Labor Department to say, here are a certain number of specialties that are in high demand where we don't have enough workers, and we're going to create basically streamlined visa processes to get them here faster. And that's particularly salient for the bioeconomy here in Massachusetts. Next week, the China Select Committee is coming to Boston. We're bringing them there to show the jobs and the cures that come from biotechnology, and we need more of this talent to come to Massachusetts to make the biotechnology sector work.
These are field hearings for the China Select Committee, right? They're kind of rare.
They're field hearings that's really meant to put Massachusetts in the spotlight as driving biotechnology, which is going to be a major source of competition between China and the United States for the years to come. And people tend to think of the biotech economy as R&D in Boston and Cambridge. It is that, but it's also manufacturing in places like Fall River and Norton and Plainville in my district, where we're creating good jobs outside of the core city.
Congressman Jake Auchincloss from Massachusetts, thanks so much for joining us on the program.
It's always a pleasure.
All right, stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. On Thursday, lawmakers unveiled a proposal to overhaul the law that governs public access to the work government does. The Access to Public Records Act is in its 45th year in Rhode Island, and while it was amended in 2012, this bill, introduced by State Senator Lou DePalma and State Rep Patricia Serpa, proposes a number of changes they say will increase transparency and make it easier for the public to obtain government records. A somewhat similar version was struck down last year amid pushback from law enforcement, the McKee administration, and others. This bill comes on the heels of some high-profile public records headlines, including emails that shed light onto the days leading up to the Washington Bridge closure. Now it has to get through committees in both chambers. We'll keep track of it here for you at 12 News. And exciting news for this program. You can watch Newsmakers Fridays at 6:30 on Fox Providence, along with our normal airings on Sunday, and of course, anytime on WPRI.com. For Ted Nesi, I want to thank you for watching Newsmakers. I'm Tim White, and we will see you next week.